small team making big moves. Always being real, it's just that's still true. So when you say that we blessed, we earn that. No easy road to success, you gotta work with that. To the bit that goes the spoils.
Greetings and welcome to NINESIXINDIE, where the goal is to provide DIY tips for music makers and content creators. I go by the name of Joe Rodriguez, and we're here today to talk about the Audient iD44. The Audient iD44 is a professional USB audio interface that you can use with your Windows or Mac computer to create anything from solo productions to video productions to podcasting to music creation. It helps you do it all with class. First up, I want to talk about build quality. The Audient iD44 is solidly built. You know, when they say built like a tank, it's definitely the vibe you get from the Audient iD44. You know, all metal construction. You could drop it from a 10-story building. It'll still be good to go. Just kidding. Don't try that. But yeah, when you turn your knobs, you turn your gain knobs, you turn your headphone amp knob, you turn your big output knob on there or your scroll control knob, everything feels solid. Every switch you flick back and forth feels solid. Every button you press feels solid. So definitely thumbs up on the build quality for this unit. Next up, let's talk about the inputs. So you have 4 analog inputs, XLR 1/4-inch combo jacks on the back of the unit. And for channels 1 and 2, you also have sends and returns. So that's if you want to, for instance, use an external compressor while you're recording. Then on channel 1 and 2, you have the ability to do that with these 1/4-inch send and return connections. Also, on the front of the unit, you have 2 DI inputs also on channel 1 and 2, and those are JFET DIs. And for the XLR inputs, basically you're going through a Audient preamp. So Audient has a reputable preamp that has been around for years. It's on their, large format consoles and pretty much extended through all of their line from what I've seen in, Audient's product videos. So very reputable preamps, clean preamps. They're known for being transparent and having a touch of warmth. But I mean, at the end of the day, I am using the Audient iD44 as I record this review, and you're listening to it right now. So if, any of those details didn't mean anything to you, just listening to the preamps right now might give you an idea of the kind of results you can get. And if we're talking about the inputs, one other thing that you can do with the inputs on the back of the unit, your 4 analog inputs, is you can use any one of them as your talkback microphone that you choose using the Audient ID app. This is the app that you can use in conjunction with the interface to route audio. So you can route outputs. You can set up cue mixes, to send to the artist so that they can hear what they want to hear in their headphones. And you can assign your talkback microphone. So you can do that with one of the analog inputs on the back of the unit. For instance, when I'm recording, let's say a solo vocalist, then I will have them on channel 1, that'll be the input that they use to record with. And then channel 4 is what I set up for my talkback microphone, and I can, connect any XLR microphone to channel 4 for my talkback. Another thing you could do too is you don't have to use, the analog input on the back if you're trying to use all your 4 channels to create music, for instance, or basically to create music. You can also use the onboard microphone on your laptop or your desktop, or if you have a USB microphone that you connect to your computer, then you can use that as well as your talkback. And before we leave inputs, one thing that I do have to mention is that, you're not just stuck with your 4 analog inputs on the unit. You can actually expand your input capabilities if you use the optical ports on the back of the unit. You have 2 optical ports on the back of the unit, and those can basically expand your inputs by 8 channels each for a total of 16 digital inputs, along with your 4 analog inputs is what gives you your 20 inputs, up to 20 inputs on the Audient iD44. And while we're talking about, the optical connections on the back, you can also use that for outputs. So same deal there. You can do 16 digital outs with the Audient iD44 using the optical out ports. Basically, you have that along with your line outputs, 4 analog line outputs. So 16 plus 4, that's your 20. And then you have 2 headphone outputs on the unit, which gets up to your 24 outputs on the unit. So all in all, I'm generally pleased with the way that the Audient iD44 operates, on the way in and on the way out. Something that is touted about this unit is that it has high quality conversion. Essentially, when you're recording, you get very high quality signal. And when you're outputting back out to your speakers or your headphones, you're also getting very high quality signal. Otherwise, we have buttons on the unit that are assignable. I haven't really gotten into assigning different functions to the unit, to the buttons on the unit, because what it comes stock with works well for me. One of the function buttons, for instance, gives you a mono output, a mono mix that you can use to, reference if you're mixing. So yes, the function buttons do come in handy. Another function, for example, is your alternate monitor function. So if you have a second set of monitors, behind your main monitors, you can reference back and forth what the mix sounds like, whatever you're working on, whatever you're editing, and it just helps to have that other point of reference that you can just flick back and forth between. And some of the buttons that are, they're not necessarily assignable, like the button is the button. You have your cut button. So that's if you want to cut the output of your speakers at any point for any reason, you can do that. And then you also have dim, which turns your speakers down if you're, say, trying to talk to somebody in the same room and you don't want to turn the speakers all the way off momentarily. You can dim it, which just turns the level down to a more manageable level. And then you have your ID button, which I briefly touched on, scroll control. So if you hit the ID button, you can use the large knob on the top of the interface to control parameters within your DAW, for instance. So let's say you're doing volume automation, you can hover the mouse over the fader for the channel that you're looking to automate volume on, and then you can pretty much turn away with the knob and write your automation using the knob as opposed to trying to write it in with your mouse. So that can definitely come in handy, and it works for a lot of functions for sure. And there we have it, ladies and gents, the Audient iD44 USB audio interface. As you can see, this is a very versatile unit. You get it straight out the box with plenty of analog ins and outs to work with. And of course, it is expandable with your digital input and output options. And for me, this is my everyday audio interface that I use for editing and mixing. And then anytime I want to create studio level recordings, this is the interface that I use. I either plug my mic straight up to the input of the Audient iD44, or if I want to get more intricate, I can use my external preamp and my external compressor, or I can use one or the other. But in any event, like I said, it's my go-to without a doubt. And I hope, I provided some insight about the unit if you're interested in it. And as always, this is not the only way to do things. This is the way I do things. And I hope it helps you to improve your workflow. Thank you for tuning in to 96 Indie. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.